Northwestern, like a handful of successful programs across the nation, won't be found in the top 10 or even the top 20 or 25 in the national recruiting rankings. But in terms of bringing in the guys that fit the system, are able to be coached up and developed, it works there for Pat Fitzgerald. Coming off a 7-6 campaign, we bring in Zach Peerless from Inside NU to break down the Cats. Zach, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on.
So pretty much as we talked about before we came on this afternoon, a drama-free day for Pat Fitzgerald and his staff. The class pretty well set with 19 hard commits. They basically all came through. You've got 18 3-stars and one 4-star. Your overall thoughts and impressions of a class that 24/7 Sports has rated at 48th in the nation.
This is a really deep class, which is what I think Pat Fitzgerald did a great job with. Their lowest rated guy is like a middle 3-star guy, and I think that that's really important because when you look at a team like Northwestern, they're always going to need to improve their depth. They're never going to, like you mentioned, pull in a bunch of 5-stars or 4-stars. They were able to pull in one this year, but overall, really good depth. You look at the top of the class, 3 really good defensive linemen in terms of 2 guys from Texas, really impressive. They brought in Sam Miller, who was an early enrollee out of the Houston area. His brother Alex is actually going to be a rising sophomore on the team. So family connection there. They also have Trevor Kent, who is from a tiny town in Kansas, but the crown jewel of this class is Ernest Brown IV. He was an U.S. Army All-American, just a really, really good, powerful pass rusher. He's really the top guy. Northwestern was very happy to hang on to him. He got an Ohio State offer, also held a Michigan offer, tons of offers, and he was able to stick with the Wildcats. So that's a big win for Pat Fitzgerald.
Yeah, Brown was the top 35 player in the state of Texas. We know that Texas, California, and Florida have the deepest rosters of talent coming into college football each and every year. So being a top 30 player in that specific state, extremely impressive. You mentioned the couple enrollees that are coming in early. Obviously, they get a jump start on the other guys in regards to possibly working into a rotation come fall. Based, Zach, on the personnel losses that you're aware of and what you see out of this class, where are some guys going to need to step up, do you believe, based on, again, where those holes could be?
So Northwestern loses C.J. Robbins at defensive end, and then they lose the Big Ten sack leader, Fadio Denebo, at defensive end. So like I mentioned earlier, those 3 defensive linemen that they brought in, probably all 3 have a chance to see the field as true freshmen. I'm not sure if they all do. Very rarely does Pat Fitzgerald play more than a handful of guys. The second early enrollee, talking about Sam Miller. The other enrollee is a super back, which is Northwestern's mix of kind of a fullback and a tight end. Trey Pugh, 6'5" guy who can really run, really, really good, impressive athlete. Northwestern doesn't lose anyone there per se, but they could really use a little bit more of a receiving threat at that position. Right now they have Garrett Dickerson, who actually turned into a pretty good short and medium range receiver, as well as a fantastic blocker. They would love to have a guy like Trey Pugh stretch the field, so he could be a guy that could play. And then Pat Fitzgerald tends to usually play at least one true freshman wide receiver. So when you look at that area, Northwestern lost an All-American in Austin Carr, as well as Andrew Scanlon, who is really a solid contributor. So Northwestern brings in 3 guys there. Jace James is a local guy. Berkeley Holman is a guy from California and a really speedy, perhaps future slot man. And then Kyrick McGowan is also a fast guy who also can, be strong after the catch as well.